On his weekends, you feel like you know Howard Griffith a little bit better.
He's everyone's friend.
Face of the Big Ten
Yes.
Network. What are we about? 17 years now? You've been at BTN? Is that right?
Well, 18 years.
Wow.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I haven't done anything consecutively for 18 years outside of maybe being a screw up.
Hey, anything worth doing is worth doing right.
Hey,
Right, there you go.
you were here in the middle of August, and I know what you saw. And by the time you see a lot of practices, some start to run together. But you were pretty direct on your thoughts and positive thoughts about what you saw from Nebraska in practice. How does what you saw in person in August? How does that compare to what you've seen out of Nebraska for the first 3 games?
Yeah, it's been validated. I mean, and let's be clear. Sometimes I see things and I think it's one way, and I have absolutely no idea. It turns out to be absolutely wrong. But when I watch, just where I watched them work practice, I really thought that they had a chance to have really a special season. And you look at the way they've been able to perform thus far, it's true to form. And I think when you go back and you look history-wise, and that second year, for whatever reason, things really seem to click when he's turning the program around. And it looks like Nebraska is well on their way. And it's an exciting time if you're a Nebraska fan and quite frankly a fan of college football, because I think Nebraska, when they're rolling, goodness, I mean, that's a great story and a great program to have a lot of conversations about.
Well, and Howard, it was high praise how you described the quarterback room, and I know a lot of that starts with Dylan, but knowing that you have a Heinrich Haarberg coming back that won 5 games a year before, but then also another freshman that a lot of people are excited about for his future in Danny Kaelin. When you watched that group just in the time that you had a chance to see them, what collectively stood out about just those 3 and even some of the other guys that are putting in some of the work too?
The way they interact. Because for me, so much of practice, you can watch guys throw the ball around, and we come in there. Sometimes the practice is very vanilla because we're there sometimes. So for me, one of the things that's important is what kind of command of the huddle. How do guys interact? How do they interact with other positions? How are they coached? And what I saw in that quarterback room is something that you don't really see a lot of places when you talk about the high-end caliber, and also the storylines, right? I mean, listen, there is a true freshman that is in a backup situation that was still out there competing, wasn't moping, knowing that he's not going to ultimately be the starter this year, but really had a great positive attitude. And to me, that's what really stuck out about the room. And I don't know that we've really seen this offense opened up the way that I think it can. But I think that's part of that is by design. Maybe we'll see some of that Friday night, but it's certainly a fun room to watch. And it's very unusual in today's college football with the transfer portal and all the things that go along with NIL, that you could have a room with the caliber of talent that is there and committed.
Let's stick with that and let's bring Illinois into the conversation, Howard, because they haven't given up. They haven't allowed anybody to throw for more than 150 yards. They're taking the football away. Xavier Scott and Miles Scott are really good. There's the old saying that cornerbacks tell the truth, safeties lie. And I think Aaron Henry does a really good job of mixing up coverages. They're going against a freshman quarterback. Walk me through the advantages that Illinois could have that they could cause issues for Dylan pre-snap or at the snap because of what they want to do in the back end.
Well, I think ultimately it's about, tricking the quarterback's eyes and being able to disguise things. And you talk about being able to have that safety play. That's why I think it's important when there's a young quarterback involved, no matter what the talent level is, that you're able to complement that with a run game. A run game is going to be important because with that, when that happens, if you may not be able to, you may have to add that safety down to a box where he's in more of a position where it can be a tail if you can get a pre-snap read. And I think that's the part of it. There'll be a lot of mental game pre-snap things, I think, on both sides of the football, whether offensively you put a person in motion to see how the coverage rotates or whether they're playing man or zone. to get a jump on what's going to ultimately happen and what they're going to see. But ultimately, it all starts up front. You've got to be able to allow the quarterback some time to be able to decipher what's going on. And I think that's absolutely, what Illinois is going to try to do. You talk about trying to, give him different coverages and forcing him. He's going to throw it, and they know he can throw it. But it's about forcing him to really second guess or be a beat off. And that's where they're trying to get to. And they've done a really good job. You talk about just the growth from last year to this year. It's not only with the players. I think it's also with the play calling and Aaron Henry, and also having a healthy secondary and a healthy defensive team.
Well, and on the flip side of that, with the Illinois offense, we're seeing Luke Altmaier, who's not turning the football over, who's making good decisions. A team that we always think of Brett Bielema teams and even Illinois teams. I mean, if you go back to Lovie Smith and the amount of running backs that they had that were very effective, that it's going to be a physical team. When you look at their offense and what teams are going to be challenged with the most when playing Illinois, and starting with Nebraska on Friday, what stands out about this offense and what they want to do and how they can be successful going forward?
But you look at what they've been able to do with their receivers. They've really been able to make a lot of plays downfield. Some of those 50-50 balls they've been able to come up with. Altmaier has been really patient this year. And that was another person when I walked away from camp. He was a guy that, was a lot different than what he looked like a year ago. He was comfortable being there. He's comfortable leading. And you saw some of those things. You saw the physical things that were there. Those are always there. But you still have to try to engage and get involved in the players in the locker room. You have to ingratiate yourself to the team, which I think is one of the more underrated things that transfer portal guys have to do, particularly at the quarterback position, because you come in, you're expected to start, but you still have to fit in. You're trying to fit in, and a lot of times it's a little bit of a struggle. But he looks so much comfortable second year in the offensive scheme, and he's having some success. But this is a team again with Tony White. I mean, he's destined to be a head coach here soon. But what he's able to do with the system that he runs, it's really like you can't be late as an offensive lineman. You see something, you have to go now, because it's all predicated on really making split-second decisions, not knowing exactly where the pressure is coming from. And all it takes is for a rusher to get on the edge of a lineman, and it causes and disrupts everything that's going on. So I think this is really, you talk about fun matchups. This is really going to be a fun matchup because, listen, I think when you look at Dylan, he's been pressured a lot this year. That's the way you go after young quarterbacks. You try to pressure them. Can they make the big plays down the field? There are going to be 3 or 4 plays that he's going to make, that he's going to need to make to change the outcome of this game in the passing game. And he can make all the throws, no question about that. But can he do it and be consistent on those 3 or 4 plays that are going to be needed, whether it's a second and long, third and short, trying to get it into a tight window? We're going to learn a lot more about him as he continues to grow as a quarterback.
Howard Griffith from the Big Ten Network joining us. Let's now quickly, we'll go around the league. Who do you think you know more about 3 games into the season, USC or Michigan?
Ooh. I would say I know more about Michigan, and here's why. I think as we look at what's happening now at the quarterback position for them, we knew that there were going to be, some challenges. They obviously were going to play a new guy because JJ wasn't going to be back. But I think they have not been able to get going necessarily offensively on the offensive line, although they put up numbers last week. Quarterback position has turned the football over. Yes, they've had JJ had some 3 turnover games, but you knew who he was going to be. When we watch Alex Orji come in, and now he's going to be the starter this week, primarily last year, he just turned around and handed the football off. You look at the opportunities he got to get into the game this year, he was turning around, handing the football out, as opposed to the bootleg he threw for a touchdown. I think he has to continue to expand what they're doing. But the question also is, what is Tuttle, who has been hurt? Because it's stylistic as well. Because I think Alex Orji is going to give you more of the run game, look. So you would look more like, if I had to compare it, more like an Alabama when you have Tuttle or Warren. That's more of a pro style passing is what you're trying to get to. So they made a decision that they wanted to be a pro style, at least from the outside, the way I look at it, and that's why Orji didn't, I guess, become the winner of that job, but now he's in there. I think he gives them I thought of this when I left there. I thought this all year that he gives them the best chance to win. He's not going to beat Texas by himself, right? He's not going to beat USC by himself, but he gives an extra dimension that I think they have to have as a run team to be able to make things happen. And also, I mean, you look at the secondary. This is a really good secondary that they have, but they have not looked great in the first couple of weeks of the season.
It's weird to talk about this next game being so early in the schedule, but Floyd of Rosedale in Minneapolis, going to be a primetime affair between Minnesota and Iowa. If you look at both of these teams' losses, quarterback play was bad. Brosman was not good against North Carolina. McNamara was not good against Iowa State. If it comes down to quarterback play in this game, and I get it, one defense is slightly stronger, who do you trust more to make the necessary plays?
That is a great question, because now you put me in a corner that I have to answer, right? But we were doing our pre-show call yesterday for Saturday's shows, and when we got to this game, I said, hey, this is a classic Jerry DiNardo. You have to play your offhand. What's offhand? Because both teams are going to run it. Yeah. Both teams are going to play outstanding defense. Which quarterback is going to ultimately step up and make the plays that are needed? Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, I have no idea. And this is why, because they both have struggled. Yeah. McNamara will play. He has put a good game together, and then it wasn't a great game. Now he's put a good game together. What are we getting ready to get next, right? Mm-hmm. You just don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's why I think that the team that ultimately is able to win the rushing battle, that quarterback is probably going to be the team that's going to be able, that's going to walk away with the victory, because there's going to be less pressure on him to make some of those throws. Yeah. When I was talking about Dillon and talking about Altmaier and those guys, there's 3 or 4 plays that they are going to have to make as quarterbacks for either team to win. It's not even, I don't think it's 3 or 4 in that game. It's being able to convert a third down and being able to keep the chains alive for either one of those teams. But we'll find out a lot more. But this is a classic game where it's going to be, let's beat them up, let's be physical, and let's go. But Caleb Brown is playing really well and has come on for Iowa this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we always enjoy chopping it up and always enjoy your work on the screen. Have a great weekend. And as always, we appreciate it, Howard.
Hey, anytime, guys. Enjoy the rest of the week and have a great weekend.
Thank you. That's Howard Griffith from the